You don't have to if you don't. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Midwest Mythos. Guys, I know I've been on a little hiatus the last couple weeks, and guys, life's just busy sometimes. Been working a lot. My job's been pretty demanding. I haven't been getting home till like 8, 9 o'clock at night, 14-hour days. And with that being said, I have decided, if you guys stick with me, I appreciate y'all so much. If not, it was a pleasure knowing you, and I hope one day I'll have you back. But I have decided I am going to be going on a hiatus until about February. So just because work's picking up a lot and I'm not going to be able to balance a family and a podcast at the same time and work. And with the family being said, if you guys are close friends with me or follow me on Instagram, you may have noticed I am adding a new addition to my family. A new little guppy for the big fish is coming in April, late April, early May. So I got that to look forward to and just get prepped on. Me and the wife and baby already are trying to get things situated in that. So guys, I know, forgive me, please, for these next couple months. I'll come back. Me and my boy Caleb, you all remember him. He's been on a few times. We got something real big planned. That thing that I've been talking to you guys about for like the last year and a half now, my big project. Me and Caleb have been going hard into it, and we decided during this 3-month break, we're going to get all that situated, record it, and that's where we're coming back with 5 episodes of some of the craziest stuff you've never heard of. Little tidbit, Al Capone's involved, Walt Disney's involved, secret tunnels. Who doesn't love secret tunnels? Cults, death cults, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be fun. It's going to be worth the wait. And guys, I was thinking, let's do something fun for my last episode. I will be doing a live, but this is the last official episode of Midwest Mythos for a while. So I decided to hit up my man AleksPetakov from Small Town Monsters, and he was nice enough to say, yeah, I'll come back on the show. He was one of the first guests on the show, and a lot's happened in about the last year and a half. So I figured let's have him back on and see what he's been up to. So guys, right before we get into that, go check out CW Operations, guys. If you guys are having any cryptid issues out on your property, or if you just want to learn some survival tactics, some camping and stuff, hit up my boys at CW Operations. You can find that at the Crypto Warfare Podcast, or just type in CW Operations. You'll find all that stuff. If you're on my Instagram, you see me share all the stuff. Just scroll, maybe one post, and you'll see them tagged in something. And with that being said, guys, Aleks, how you doing tonight, brother? I know we've been talking for the last hour, but
doing all good, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, and obviously, congrats to you and your family. That sounds awesome. I'm glad to hear that, and honored to be your last show for a little while for the hiatus. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming, man. We've already had. I don't know about you, but I've already had fun the last hour. We've been talking pre-roll. I've been saying,
we're not rolling yet. Okay, yeah.
But I know we got some fun stuff planned. Actually, not planned. We've just been going off the cuff, guys. You know how we do it in Midwest Mythos. But before we get back into all the stuff we were covering, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and where they can find you?
Yeah, so my name's AleksPetakov. I'm a filmmaker and cryptid researcher, and kind of into all the weird stuff, I guess you could say. I work primarily with Small Town Monsters. We are an independent production company that does all sorts of documentaries on various cryptids, a lot of Bigfoot stuff. We've done so much, I literally can't even list off. I mean, if you've been following STM for a while, you would know that we cover a lot, Mothman, aliens. We've done all sorts of spectrum. We do a lot of episodic content on YouTube, but we also have films that go to other platforms. So I do a few different series for Small Town Monsters. One of them is called Bigfoot Beyond the Trail, which is been doing since 2021, believe it or not, which is pretty crazy. It's like, I don't even know. It's got like 23 million views collectively, something like that. I don't even know at this point. And it's basically just my personal investigations into Bigfoot cases and stuff that I find interesting in various parts of North America. So we've been to Alaska, down south, all up and down the Appalachians, the Pacific Northwest. I mean, you name it. It'd probably be easier to list the places we haven't been than the places we have been with Bigfoot Beyond the Trail specifically. But I also do, again, a few other different series. I've done a show called Strange Places, which was about unusual places, stuff like LBL with other weirder kind of cases and stories. some UFO history, Bigfoot stuff with some Bigfoot stuff with that as well. And the Appalachian Bigfoot Files is a series I started, I think, late last year or earlier this year, which is just about specifically like Georgia to Maine, all the mountains in between, all the stories. Because on the East Coast, that's where a lot of like Bigfoot stories, like we were talking about East Tennessee right before the show. That's like an area that's along the Appalachian Mountains, and you hear stories from West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, like East Ohio, Pennsylvania, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. I mean, it's the whole, logically, if these things are out there, right? Like that's some of the best habitat on the East Coast. So anyway, this is turning into way too long of a rant about that's so yeah. I work again, Small Town Monsters, AleksPetakov. You can find a lot of my stuff on Small Town Monsters or my website, petakovmedia.com. That's PETAKOV media, and that's just like, it's got links to a lot of the stuff I do specifically on there. But yeah, you could spend years watching all the STM stuff that's out there up until now. So yeah, there you go.
Dude. All right, guys. All the links and stuff are going to be down in the bio. And Alex knows I don't like to blow smoke off people's butts. But guys, STM is probably, no, not even probably, it is the best cryptid mystery kind of content out there right now. It's not that fluffy Hollywood TV show stuff. Nothing wrong with those guys. I've met a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
They're really awesome. I love them. But Small Town Monsters, man, they're boots on the ground, and you guys are real, man. And that's why I feel like you guys are at where you're at now. It's something that everybody's wanted for a long time, and Seth and all y'all have just made it happen. So guys, I highly suggest go checking it out.
I appreciate that, man. I really do. It's like I don't know. We just, a lot of times, like, it's just me for some of my videos. I'm literally just out there filming myself, or I'm with like a small team, whether I'm in Alaska or wherever, and like we don't exaggerate. We just, hey, this is what happened. If we have nothing happen, we'll tell you that. But we just try our best. And like as an enthusiast of the subject, I'm not just like making a film about a subject that I don't have anything that I care about, right? Like I'm genuinely interested. I was doing a lot of this stuff before I was filming it with STM. I just have more of an opportunity now to go to some of these cooler places that, maybe I wouldn't have gone to before. But yeah, that's kind of the approach we take. I don't try to convince anyone. You believe what you want. You can say we're totally full of shit. Sure, go. That's your right. Like whatever, Well, we're not faking it. We are about just showing what's going on out there. And you might not like it. That's okay. That's up to you. You're a free citizen. You can plenty of people tell us they don't like it, but also people seem to like it. And one of the things I like to stress a lot in my videos is just inspiring people to get out there. I get so many messages and comments all the time. Probably one of my favorite parts of like just audience letting me know about what they think about the videos is like, I've had people literally message me in a picture and like, hey, you remember this spot? And it'll be a spot in like middle of nowhere in Utah in the mountains where I filmed a shot. And he's like, I came here because of that. Like it's been in your videos in the intro. And I'm like, that is so sick. Like that is so cool that I inspired someone just to go hike to this like hard to get to spot and take a picture there. So create your own adventures, like I love highlighting my adventures out there and I love sharing that with people, but ultimately I want people to go out and do their own thing too, especially in this day and age where we're always like, in our phones and
right.
get out there, enjoy it. Nature's beautiful, like a lot of weird stuff out there, a lot of fun stuff. Just have fun with it,
Right. Oh, sorry. We got a little intruder real quick.
Hi.
Say hi, Mr. Petakov. Everybody on YouTube. This is my daughter Aria. And she just wants to say hi because I ain't seen her all day.
Oh,
all right. Go to Auntie. Love you, baby. Sorry about all that. She ain't seen me in a few days because
I don't think anyone's gonna complain about that.
Right, man. But that's so cool, man. That people are literally, hey, remember this spot? And
dude, I had that happen like a few months ago, and I'm like, that's awesome. But then I've had other people just like, hey, where would you recommend going? Or like, just I love being able to inspire people to get out there and just have fun and just get out in nature. Like I've had people, they're like, oh, I get events. I've met folks and like my kid loves you. Like he watches all the time. And like, we're planning a backpacking trip together as a result. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome, man. Like, have fun. like, yeah, enjoy the videos, but and the one thing is, the people that can get out there, and I will say the other flip side is, we've had a lot of like older people or folks that, aren't physically able to get out, and they're like, man, I live vicariously through your adventures. Like I've got, heard some pretty horrible stories. People like, I have this condition and I just can't, I'm homebound, but watching your videos like fills me with that sense of travel. So that's another different aspect of it. So it's really cool. And yeah, that's been super rewarding. Like I really, those kind of messages, like, because you'll get sometimes nasty stuff and the
Mhm.
trolls, like, it just comes part of it. And sometimes it can tick you off. Like you got to have thick skin, of course. But when you
Right.
get one of those positive messages or emails or comments or whatever, and it just kind of makes you feel good, right? Like who doesn't like
Right.
that stuff? But again, it's more about like it also inspires people to get out there and do something and have some fun on their own, or it just makes their day, which kind of just like helps make my day, which is awesome.
Right. And that is awesome that you guys are doing that. And one thing I will say too is for people, I've had a lot of people in my life in the last since I've been started this podcast. I checked out the podcast and really weren't into this kind of stuff, the cryptids and all that kind of
Right.
stuff, Bigfoot. And they're like, well, obviously you talk about it on your show, but where do you like suggest going? And I always tell them they go, go check out Small Town Monsters, because I remember actually when Aria, she was just born. My wife was like, her first cryptid anything was Monster Fest. that and she was like, oh, this is cool. This many people believe in this, and I was like, this is like a small fraction.
Yeah, this is like yeah.
So when she was born, we had nothing else to do. I had time off work and you
Right.
can't go do anything when you got newborns. So she was like, well, let's turn something on. I was like, all right, I know exactly what we're watching. It was you and Eli's Beyond the Trail. And, we just found it on Tubi, and I was like, all right, here, we're going
Right
to watch
on.
the whole season. And she's like, wow, this actually, I feel like I actually know something about Bigfoot and stuff now. And I was like,
That's
yeah,
cool.
and you see why I'm addicted to going out in the woods and doing this stuff,
That's it. That's it. Like it's a little, a lot of times you don't have anything happen, but then there'll be those times where something does happen. And it's like, whoa, this is awesome, right? So no,
It's
I
worth it.
appreciate that. That is awesome. And yeah, again, it's like, you inspire people or just getting out there and I don't know. It's just it's definitely rewarding. But yeah, I mean, I'm having a good time. Like I've had, blast being able to get out to so many of these places, and I was literally filming today with some good friends of mine actually that I've known for a long time here in New England who do stuff out in Western Massachusetts, and one of them, Jonathan Wilk, he's like one of my top 10 Bigfoot eyewitness stories. He was working as a park ranger in the '90s, and he saw two of these things, and one was scooping up trash and grabbing a trash bag, and he was supposed to be picking up the trash, doing his rounds. And, he saw this one and stared it down. And then a bigger one behind him, that he saw the silhouette of kind of like let out like a, "Ugh," and he felt it in his chest and it freaked him out. And he started avoiding that area. And just one of my favorite stories. So I got to hang out with him and my buddy Dave McCullough. They're in this group called Squatchachusetts, which it's just like the coolest name ever, right? Like I literally have their sticker on like back of my car. And they do like Bigfoot research here in Massachusetts, kind of Vermont, New England area. We went to this pond where over the summer, Dave and another guy named Mike, another buddy of mine, they got what they think were like large rocks thrown at them in this pond area, which was really crazy. Like just it freaked them out really bad. And so we went to the location today and we're filming it. So I'm like very fresh in my mind. We were filming it for one of our Northwoods series that we've been doing. So yeah, it's just fun being able to do stuff like that and get out with cool people is a huge reward, of course, for me, but being able to share the adventures too. But yeah.
Right, man. I I'm looking forward to seeing that when that comes out. That sounds the rock throws, man. I know we were talking a little bit about pre-roll. Them rock throws. People listening like, oh, you just got a rock thrown at you. Oh,
Yeah.
it's pretty weird being out in the middle of nowhere or just out in the wilderness and having a rock thrown at you. That ain't normal. As
No.
far as I know, I ain't ever seen a rock grow on top of a tree, man.
No,
Have you?
it's strange. Like it's strange, especially like I've talked to people who like found the rocks, who actually have like collected the rocks. They have the rocks. A lot of times, like one of the ones we had in Alaska at Area A, as we call it, the piece of property there in the coastal rainforest on the Kenai Peninsula. Our first trip out there in 2022, that was featured in Alaskan coastal Sasquatch documentaries. Those like sounds like distinctly like something being thrown, and it's hitting stuff along the way, and then it hits the rock shoreline, which creates like a rock on rock sound, and then a splash in the water. So it's not like it's just a splash, and you're hearing this and you're recording it, and got recordings of that, and you're just like, I don't know what's doing that. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'll let you in on a little secret. Like on a recent trip, so I have upcoming videos coming out. I mean, depending on when this is coming out, I don't know if those videos will be out, but in the next few months, we have some more Area A stuff coming. I was in Alaska in July, or not July, August, excuse me. We went out for a week to Area A, and like the first day we got there, my friend and I, we heard this, like, I can only describe it as rock rubbing. That's what we called it. It was very weird. I'm not saying it was Bigfoot. I don't know what it was, but he was about to. I think I was about to fly a drone, and like he was just doing some stuff with the camera. We didn't have any audio or anything rolling. I was going up the stairs to this cabin, and we just hear like for 15, 20 seconds this like rock scraping, rubbing sound. And it sounded like it was coming from around this bend where there's like some trees where the bay kind of ends, and there's like a river that feeds into the bay. And we're just like kind of looking at each other. And my camera is on a tripod like 5 feet from him. And I'm like, dude, turn the camera on and hit record. And like he's fumbling with it because he doesn't know, it's like a Sony A7. He doesn't know where the record button is. He had to turn it on, and by the time he did it, it was already done. And like that was one of those moments you just don't expect it, but it was like, it was weird because it was this like, again, I don't know how else to describe it. It was like this like if you take two rocks, and that the coastline there in Alaska is filled with just rocks everywhere. I mean, you got the infamous rocks, the netted rocks. I've got one on my desk here if I can get it without knocking everything over. You got like these kind of rocks everywhere, and this is straight from the beach there in Alaska. The netted rocks, that these are what the fishermen used to use. They would put these rocks in nets because they use them to weigh down their fishing nets. It was cheaper than lead or metal, just rocks everywhere on the beach. And there's hundreds of these. I've got a whole box of them over there that I collected over the summer. I give them out to people as gifts because we call them the Squatch rocks, because these are some of the rocks that they would find thrown into their boat and like placed in weird places on the property.
What?
Yeah, so there's rocks everywhere. So it's like, I don't know what that rock rubbing, that was the weirdest one. And that was like, I wish we had it recorded because I would love to be able to hear that audio, because I'm like, all right, could have been like a rock slide. I mean, I don't know. Usually rock slides happen in the spring or this early summer when the snow's still melting. There aren't any sheep there. Like I had a friend of mine tell me about, he was in Oregon and he heard this like sheep, or these doll sheep. He was just like filming some stuff and he heard like this like crashing sound. And he's like, what is that? And the person he was with, oh, that's the sound of like sheep, bighorn sheep or doll sheep, kind of going at each other and like doing the head, the males when they do the head thing. But out there in that part of Alaska, there's only mountain goats, which have those like little tiny stubs. Like they don't, and I read about it, they don't do the like the headbutting thing. So I can't say it was Bigfoot, but it was a little weird because it was right after we got to the property and we were just kind of getting settled in. Usually stuff out there happens like right when people get there or before they're leaving, kind of thing. After they leave, that's when typically a lot of stuff has happened. So it was weird, but involved rocks. So that's why I'm sharing the story.
Yeah. Well, and from everything that I saw in the Alaskan coastal squash and stuff like that out there, it seems like a lot of the phenomena that you guys get, at least when you go out there, is audio stuff. Just like,
Yeah.
am I correct in saying that it was Area A where you guys had that baby cry kind of sound?
Yeah, so that wasn't us who recorded that. That was the property owner, but that was like,
Oh,
that happened at Area A like a year or two before we were there, because they started recording stuff out there and they got like a lot of the different vocalizations, and the baby crying when women were there. That was one of the things. And that's why I actually have a series called Dark Coast from a couple of years ago on the channel, which was a direct follow up on Small Town Monster channel, excuse me. That was a 5-part series that was a direct follow up to Alaskan Coastal. And that was, we spent 2 weeks out there, and we had almost nothing happen because it was like raining the entire time. Rainforest, right? Big shock,
Yeah.
raining all the time. That was unfortunate. We found like tracks and weird stuff that, you know, potentially interesting. Like I could show one of them here on my 3D scanner app, Scaniverse, which I highly recommend for everybody.
It's a good app, y'all.
This probably won't be interesting for the audio listeners, but sorry
Hey,
guys.
it's incentive to go check out the YouTube channel.
So this is like, let's see if I can get it to work. This was one of the like 3D scans we got. This was 2023 when I was out there for 2 weeks.
Oh, dude.
It was pretty weird, and you can try to like measure it. Let me see if I can get that to work. I'm doing this while looking at the screen, so this is like taking some skills. About 10 inches, so nothing too crazy large, but what I love about these scans is you can do this. And
But given the area that you're at, if anybody's seen it prior to listening to this, like, you guys are out in the middle of nowhere. There's not just people around. There's correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just the landowner out there.
well, yeah, I mean, and he doesn't live out there permanently. Like it's a fishing and kind of hunting sort of spot.
Right.
And it's just a remote part of Alaska with, it takes you over an hour boat ride to get there. It's the same kind of area that the famous Port Chatham story, which is further down that coastline, hundreds of miles down. Because that is just, you've got, I mean, I don't know if you added up all the little bays and inlets, you've got thousands of miles maybe altogether. It's crazy to think about, that area and how much space there is. And like every bay looks the same. It's all temperate rainforest, mountains just shooting up from the water. Same kind of area Les Stroud had his encounter in while filming Survivor Man back in the day. I got to meet him recently and we talked about that. And, it's all so similar because it's all that same kind of area. But yeah, a lot of the stuff we've had happen was audio related, the mystery gunshot noises that we'd
Yeah.
hear just randomly. We'd found a handprint the first year out there. We found this weird handprint on the back side of the cabin. Still waiting to hear about that. That's kind of being tested as part of Legend Meets Science 2 with Doug Hychek. So we're hoping there'll be something promising with those results. I don't know. It's been 3 years now since we have sent those samples in. So it's been a while, but yeah, so a lot of the stuff has been audio. This last trip that we went out there, that was like the only audio thing we had happen that I'm aware of. I mean, I still have a bunch of audio overnight to review. Unfortunately, it did rain most of that time. Like we got there the first day, it was like a Monday, right? So we get there Monday, and it's not really it's not raining, and then it starts raining that night, of course, and then it pretty much doesn't stop until rained Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday it rained, and it finally stopped on Thursday, and then Friday was our first kind of clear day, so we actually got to go out and do some stuff, and then we had to leave Saturday, so it was rough with the rain, but we made the best we could. But problem is
Right.
when you get the rain going on, like you can't really tell what's going on. You could
It,
have stuff, audio, all kinds of stuff, but it's just completely muted and destroyed by the rain.
it's tough out there.
We had a weird incident happen with these sensors going off. We were staying in this little cabin off the side of the main cabin. It has these like light sensors that come on, right? They're motion activated. Something or someone walks by, they go on. We had a couple of them kept getting triggered this one night during this torrential downpour. And it was just weird because it was like, why didn't this happen previously on any of the other nights? If it's caused by the rain. And I'm not saying this is, Bigfoot or anything unusual. It was just kind of odd. We'd be like in the cabin. There's myself, my buddy Rob Roy Menzies, and my buddy Brian, and like this one light kept getting triggered, and we're like, what the heck? So we start opening the windows and we're scanning with thermals out the windows. It became this whole. It'll be in one of the videos. This whole hilarious sequence where, like, I'm pretty sure I'll probably have to crop some of it because like we're probably, I was probably in like my underwear or something because we're in this bunk room. Like there's a bunk bed and then there's a bunk like on top in this little like loft space, and every time like one light would get triggered, and then there was a couple times another one got triggered in the other area. We'd all be like huddled in one side of the cabin, then the other light gets triggered, and someone's like, "Dude, the other one got triggered," and we all run to the other side of the cabin with the thermals. Oh, it's going to be a very funny sequence, and yeah, people are they're gonna kind of laugh at us a little bit, but we are like excited because I'm like thinking, dude, something's gonna run by, right? Like I
Right.
must see this thing, right? It was weird because it kept happening for a little bit, and then it stopped. But it didn't happen any of the other nights. It was literally one of the last nights with the rain, and it was like in the middle of rain, and I'm like, okay. And it was only two of them getting triggered, and we were trying to see like could it be like a small animal that triggered it or whatever, and they're specifically made to be like at a higher height, I guess, like human size, because they're supposed to be when people walk through there because it gets really dark even in the summer months, when it's not fully dark, but if it's cloudy and with the rainforest and the canopy, like it's very dark in there, you still probably can't walk around with a flashlight, you know. So that was a weird sequence. That was a weird event. I can't, I can't say what it was 100%, but
Right.
it was a little interesting, and I think it's going to make for kind of like a very entertaining sequence, almost comedic the way it was kind of happening. But yeah, so that was the latest trip to Area A. Again, that was back in August. And yeah, I did a big trip to the Pacific Northwest and Alaska back in August and early September. So a lot of the videos I've been coming out with lately have been from that trip. I think I've had 4 videos come out so far. One from the Olympic Peninsula. I was hanging out with Shane Corson of the Olympic Project, and we filmed some stuff with a property owner who's had like a lot of stuff happen out there. Then I had an Alaska bush plane adventure where a buddy of mine and I went out on a bush plane and camped near a glacier, and just like trying to showcase like the wild areas in Alaska. And then I had another video come out which was about the Cascade Mountain Range in Washington, where it was actually kind of funny because I didn't really plan on this video kind of connecting to a previous thing I had happen, but last year my wife and I went on this thing called the Alaska Bigfoot Cruise. It was this event put on, and I was asked to be a speaker, and she had never been out to that part of Washington. So before we went on the cruise, we are like, oh, we spend a few days, go to Mount Rainier, visit some spots, and we go out to this one area that Chris Spencer of the Olympic Project had kind of told me like this would be a cool place to go camp. We only had one night. We had like a rental truck, so we were able to drive down a pretty sketchy logging road to get to this location, which was awesome. But that night, I was like not really. I mean, I filmed a little bit with my GoPro and I had like my audio and a thermal, but I was about to go on a cruise. I wasn't like in full like investigation mode, and we were just one night camping after visiting the national park with my wife, and that night, like I stayed up a little bit listening, and I heard like some weird stuff kind of in the ravine there. We were like right near these big cliffs on one side, and then the ravine on the other side, and there was like weird cracking and stuff going on. I had audio rolling that night, and then I ended up losing that audio. And I had listened to it, and there was like knocks and stuff I heard on it, and then I lost that audio at some point. So I'm like, great, amateur hour. But the morning when I woke up, I was filming with my GoPro, and I was hearing like stuff cracking and breaking right in kind of the ravine beneath me, and it was a little weird. So based off of that, when I went to Washington this summer, I linked up with 2 guys, Kirk Brandenburg and Nathaniel Bronis, who are really great Washington-based researchers, and they're with this group Study Sasquatch. So they're doing this awesome thermal camera trap study or
Mhm.
project, thermal camera trap project. You can't say that 5 times fast. That'd be difficult, but they're really cool guys, and we went on a little adventure in that kind of part of the Cascades, and I'm like, I want to go back to not the same area, but the same rural area that I had that stuff happen with my wife, and I got to tie that into the story of the film, which was really cool. So that video just came out, like in October, and then I just had one drop recently, which was about Alaska Bigfoot encounters, Sasquatch encounters outside of Anchorage and like South Central Alaska, which was really cool. Got to spend time with my buddy Rob Roy Menzies. We went to an area where he had some kind of weird activity going on, and it's like a local fishing spot that he goes to, just like in the mountains above Anchorage, where you've got like, I mean, he's got the best footage. If you watch the film, he's got footage of like baby moose, bears, and it's like literally filmed from his porch in his backyard. Like the wildlife out there just is everywhere, and big, scary wildlife, and it's dangerous.
Oh
The
yeah.
local fishing spot we went to, like less than a month from us going to that spot, less than a month before that, there was somebody got attacked by a brown bear out there. Like they were walking with their dog and they got mauled on the arm by a brown bear. Survived. It wasn't a fatal attack, thankfully. But there are fatal attacks every year in Alaska from pretty much every year from brown bears. Big, aggressive, huge, and it's usually like the sows, which are the the female bears, and when they have the cubs, like they get really,
It's
It's scary.
unpredictable with them.
Yeah, so we were down there filming an area where Rob Roy had this weird encounter in the winter where like a tree got pushed over and he was hearing this weird kind of whistling stuff and he never saw it, but it's just he's found tracks and other weird stuff in that area. So, it's literally in the wilderness and there's been other Bigfoot sightings in that area. Like if you watch the episode, it's called The Alaskan Hidden Sasquatch, I think it's called. It's like one of the more recent releases on the STM channel. But, again, I talk about encounters outside of Anchorage and South Central Alaska, which is just where all the population is. Alaska's got a population of 700 something thousand. Like it's just a little bit over Vermont. Yet it's this gigantic state that's humongous. So it's kind of funny. So obviously the encounters happen on like the outskirts of town. Pretty much you look at Anchorage and the Matsu Valley and you look at the mountains all around there and it's super wild. And that's where the encounters are happening because that's where people are going out hunting and fishing and trapping and gold, panning for gold and that kind of stuff that Alaskan people do, ATVing. Like a lot of the sightings are just people doing stuff like that. So Rob Roy going to his fishing spot, and Rob Roy, he's an art. He's into the Bigfoot stuff. He owns the Bigfoot Art Gallery in Alaska. It's a framing and matting business, kind of like a little bit of a Bigfoot museum thing going on. But he did not expect to have this kind of incident happen just in a local fishing spot. But it was really cool to go there. And in the video, I got to highlight the dangers of like bears up and bears and moose. I mean, it's really no joke. I mean, while we were there, I mean, we're both armed. Like I had a 357 Magnum. He had a 44 Magnum. Like we're on, and you go in there and you got to make a lot of noise. You got to be, hey bear, every few seconds. Because a lot of times what happens is people startle the bear, and then it comes after them, like the brown bears. But even black bears, I mean, less scared of black bears. I mean, I deal with them here. I had a run in getting my mail over the summer where like black bear was just hiding in the bush like 20 feet from me. I did not even think of anything. But as soon as I shouted, he just took off. But brown bears are a different threat level. So
Yeah, man, that's
a little bit more, yeah, a little bit more serious perhaps. So yeah, so there was just a lot of attacks and my buddy Chook, he's got a channel called Chook's Outdoor Adventures. He does a lot of like gun reviews and bear attack videos, also Bigfoot stuff. He's up there in Alaska and he talked about, he's a lifelong bear hunter. He's talked about like just attacks seem to be growing up there. There was even there was like this summer, a ton of attacks up there in Alaska as compared to other years. Just weird. Like, don't really know why. Is there some sort of factor contributing to it? But yeah, so like because you're going out there looking for Bigfoot and any of that kind of stuff, and you got to remember there's all this other wildlife that in a place like Alaska that is very dangerous. Sasquatch is just another big hairy creature that lives in Alaska, but it's far from the only one, right? Because you got
right.
moose and brown bear and black bear, and then grizzlies in the interior, and polar bears as you get way up north into the past the Arctic Circle. So yeah, it's no joke out there, and I really tried to highlight that in my latest film because it's like, yeah, we were definitely walking around like every 2 seconds you're looking around just hey because of how recent that attack was. There were signs up and happens when you least expect it.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that nobody ever really talks about, man. Is like, yeah, we go out there and we look for these Bigfoot, we look for these other cryptids and stuff like that. But you and I talked about it quite a bit pre-roll. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much other stuff out there. These animals, like, the most recent operation I went on. Yeah, in the back of my mind, I still got some nerves from my previous Bigfoot encounter back in April and stuff like that. But like the things I was worried about wild boars, man. I wasn't
Mm.
worried about, and rattlesnakes. Those were the two things I was really worried about. Yeah, was I thinking, man, I could get ambushed by a dog man from the trees or something like that. But like, on my priority list, it was wild boar, rattlesnake, tarantulas, and then all the cryptids and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Because I've heard a lot of encounter stories in the last 20 years, and since I got into this stuff, and you know, to hear that many, a lot of people live with those, but I've heard a lot more stories of people getting messed up by a wild boar and
I know
rattlesnake.
that's something you like, and because whenever I go down south, I've been down to the Honey Island Swamp in Louisiana a few times, and there's like you can't go 10 feet in the woods out there without running into hog prints and scat. And a lot of my buddies down there that I've been with, one of them's ex Secret Service, like former Secret Service, retired, and he's like a hog hunter, and he talks about he's been out there at night, and you're like almost tripping over them, how many of them are, especially when the water levels in the river rise. So they're all like in certain areas, and you're going through, and there's just hogs everywhere. If you're a hog hunter, I guess it's a good thing, but they can they can mess you up pretty good. It's like a stampede of hogs coming at you. So I've luckily I've not had to dealt with that. I had not had to deal with that. But down south, what always creeps me out is all the snakes and stuff. I mean, the copperheads, the cottonmouths, that kind of stuff. Recently, I was in Kentucky, and we don't. I live up in New Hampshire. I'm in the kind of in New England. So the things I'm worried about in the woods out are honestly the biggest threat is ticks. Like in the summertime, they're just pest. But then,
Everywhere, man.
yeah, they're bad, but they're really bad. So this year it wasn't as bad because we had a bit of a drought. But I use like permethrin and a lot of stuff to treat my clothing. But like the after ticks, the biggest thing I'm worried about is probably like moose. Moose are, they're huge, right? We get them up here. I see them near my house. I get them on my trail cameras. Like they're giant. And I've run into a lot of moose. I've had run-ins with moose out in the woods here in New Hampshire a lot, and in Maine and places like that where we have the highest moose populations here anywhere in the US outside of Alaska, between Maine and New Hampshire. So there's like tens of thousands. So they're a big, because they're not very smart animals. They're beautiful to see, but they can be very dangerous. That's a big threat level. When I'm down south, it's all this little stuff. It's like cottonmouths, down in Louisiana, running into cottonmouths. We're like trudging through water in the Atchafalaya Basin in Louisiana with my friend Scott of the Bigfoot Mapping Project. And he's like, "Do you see that over there?" I'm like, "No, man. See that little white thing in the water? It's like this little tiny thing like this sticking out the water. There's a cottonmouth right there." I'm like, I would have stepped right on that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, right.
scary because it just sits there with its mouth open, waiting for you to get close, and then strikes. And it was like a baby. It was a juvenile, I guess. It wasn't too big, but I'm not used to the little stuff like that. And when I was in Kentucky recently, I think that's what I was trying to say before I went on a tangent. But I was in Mammoth Cave National Park with some friends, and they were telling me that copperheads, which we don't have up here, we have like some areas where there's timber rattlesnakes. They're very rare though. They're like endangered. I think I've only ever seen one up here in New Hampshire, and they're usually like up on like mountainous kind of rocky areas. And I saw one when I was a kid. There's areas like upstate New York that have islands in the lakes that'll have a bunch of them, but it's just not something you really think about up here.
Mhm.
But in Kentucky, my friends were telling me about the copperheads. If you smell like a cucumber, like this really thick cucumber smell, that means there's a cottonmouth letting off some kind of musk. So we're like hiking at night in the woods on the trail. All of a sudden you get hit with this like cucumber salad smell. And they're like, "Oh, copperhead." And I'm like, dang. So that's like, it's that distinct, like unmistakable. It's like, it was like I was sniffing a cucumber. And, that's not something I really know because I don't frequent those areas all that often. So yeah, the threat levels are out there. Animals for the most part, I think attacks are pretty rare. I mean, again, I'm not trying to downplay, but most people, like even if you look at like stats on mountain lion attacks, they're pretty rare. Bear attacks, they do happen. They're pretty frequent, I think, actually now. And my buddy Chuk, he does every week. He's got a video about bear attacks throughout the U.S., in Alaska and other places too. Moose attacks. Moose are actually statistically more dangerous than bears in Alaska because they're just huge animals. And the Alaskan subspecies is the largest moose on Earth. No joke, right? Did you see? I'm telling you, if you haven't experienced like a face-to-face with a moose, you don't know what fear is. I mean, that is like, obviously, I'm sure seeing something like a Bigfoot or something is probably a little scarier, or like a brown bear, but just the sheer size, right, of a moose. I mean, I've had up in Maine, my brother and I had two moose run past our tent, like to the point where I could see the shadow, the silhouette over the tent, kind of like my hand, see the shadow, and the ground, just how much it was shaking. I mean, it was crazy. There's just the power these animals possess, right? But I
It's
think you
insane.
shouldn't go in the woods being completely scared of wildlife. Like do your thing. Like, be aware, be smart. There's ways to prevent this kind of stuff. Protect yourself, bear spray, firearm, whatever, you can legally do in the situation. Because like I've been in Canada before in areas in the middle of nowhere, and I can only legally have bear spray, like and a knife. It sucks, but Canada, the gun laws don't really permit that. But animals are one thing, but I think like the people and the weird stuff, that is a whole different category that I don't think you can really predict as well as you can maybe animals, and not really predict, but like, you have a black bear running around your camp or something like that. I've had, like in West Virginia, we had audio of what sounded like a bear walking around our camp all night, sniffing the microphone and like crunching the leaves, and you could just hear him kind of making noises. You can't really prevent that, but like, he obviously didn't really do anything. He was just curious. But if that was a weird person, and you get that on audio, you're like, there's some weirdo circling my camp all night. Like, it's not, it doesn't exactly make you feel great. So yeah.
Right, man. We were talking about beforehand. The people, man. I didn't tell you, but a few weeks ago, I had my buddy Harley on. We did a little live and stuff like that, and he had his friend over, and his friend decided to hop on the mic, tell a ghost story and stuff like
Yeah.
that, just some weird hunting stories. But he was telling me one time he was out trout fishing out in northeast Tennessee, and he just starts hearing this weird noise and stuff, and he looks over, and there's this feral person just standing there looking at him. I was like, all as he's telling the story, all I can think of is like Gollum from Lord of the
Oh,
Rings,
jeez.
but like normal person size. And he's like, yeah, he's all covered in mud, matted, hair everywhere, and just he's like, the thing looked like it wanted to kill me, but pulled out his piece and kept it out and was just kind of walking, turning, make sure this thing wasn't said tracked him for a second, but then he yelled and the person just went off, man.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I've definitely had some weird run-ins in the woods that I don't really know what to make of it, kind of kind of situations. It's like that's the biggest thing. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm a proponent of being armed, firearms, and being proficient in training yourself and how to use it. Don't just buy a gun and think it's a magical tool that, oh, I have a gun, I automatically know how to use it. No, that's terrible. Learn how to train yourself, learn how to use it. If you can't trust yourself with a firearm, then do not take one in the woods as protection. Common sense. So I don't know. I just think like it's a good deterrent. Again, we talked about the wildlife threats, but the people threats. I mean, we've had some weird stuff happen out there. We run into weird Satanists out in Oregon doing something like stalking our camp. Like kind of just weird stuff like that. Possible human smuggling in the Everglades. I don't know what to call it really, but I'm with another guy and we're in the middle of nowhere in the Everglades in this stretch of land that's like connected to state forests and the Florida Panther Wildlife Refuge, and there's like 3 million plus acres if you connected the Everglades National Park, Big Cypress Preserve, and like all these areas, and you got Florida panthers out there. We were tracking panthers and gators and bears, and there's all types of animals out there, like in the middle of nowhere. And all of a sudden, on these flooded trails we couldn't even get through with the Jeep, there's like 5 Humvees coming through and these swamp buggies with these like kind of Central American looking guys with all had like dirty backpacks and like clothes on, like full clothing and suitcases, and it was just like we're just kind of standing there on the side of the road as they're driving by. We're like, what are we looking at here? I'm like,
Put your head down and keep on walking.
and this is like 6 miles from the coast, the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean down there, because we're on the side of the Everglades closer to Naples, so like the west coast of Florida there. I don't know. It was just weird stuff like that. Another time in the Everglades, same general area, but further north. We're in the middle of nowhere in this campground. That's like, I forget. I did the stats the other day because I was telling someone the story of this campground. But it's like in Florida, how flat it is. It's like this road you got to drive. It's like 40 minutes up this flat road that's just straight in the middle of nowhere in the Big Cypress Preserve, and we're near this campground, and we're just like, we're the only people there. It's January in Florida. It was pretty cold. Like, it was in the high 30s, which is very cold for Florida, right? We're just walking the roads, 3 of us, thermals, and you're looking for stuff on the sides of the swamp and whatever. And this car just comes peeling through, and like crazy speeds, and we like duck into the side of the woods, and we have thermals and we're kind of observing them. And this man and this woman just come to a screeching halt in the middle of the dirt road. And, we're maybe like 50, 60 maybe about 100 feet plus from them because we're in the tree line and they're kind of like in the road a little bit down and we're scanning the thermals and they come to a screeching halt. Man gets out, the woman gets out, they're like arguing about something and I'm like half expecting them to like pull a body out and like dump it on the side of the road because we're in the middle of nowhere, right? Like you think the worst in these situations, but maybe you got to
Right.
be calm and collected, like you're not freaking out, but you're just kind of like they have no idea we're there, obviously. But it was a pretty heated argument. I don't know. We couldn't really understand them. They could have been speaking Spanish. I don't actually. We couldn't really even hear, but it was very intense. Like, and you literally, why would they drive up in 40 minutes onto a road in the middle of nowhere in a national preserve to just get out and argue, and then they end up switching drivers and then drove off. Just weird because you're just like, I don't know what just happened there. Like again, we were thinking like some kind of illicit weird activity, but yeah, stuff like that happens. And I've heard other people who have run into far more gruesome things out in the woods, people running into like pot grow situations, meth lab sort of stuff where you got to worry like, man, if somebody finds out here, they might try to kill you kind of thing. I'm not trying to be like sensationalist or be like, oh, scary, spooky stuff, but you
It's
just
true.
never know what you're going to find out there.
It's true though. I mean, this last place we went, we found this camp, and it looked, dude. It was we at first we thought it was a meth lab, just set up
Right.
out in the middle of the woods. It had the tarps, it had cooking stuff, all that kind of stuff, and we're looking at it, and sorry, my wife just came downstairs, but we're sitting there, and it turns out to be a camp that thank you, that they just hightailed out of there, man. There's all kinds of food, clothes, everything people just like left behind out in the middle of the woods, man. Like ain't nobody out there. Like in the spring and stuff, or like
Little
early
weird.
summer, I can imagine it's remote, but not so remote that the possibility of people not wanting to be out there, so but the fact of this is middle of October, this was like 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
and just up and nowhere. I'm like, dude, they found dead bodies out in this place before. They cults, going back to the satanic cult you found up in Oregon. There's stuff like that. They find rituals, altars, all this stuff out in this
Yeah.
place
Yeah.
too, man. I'm just like, all right, let's be careful because there
Yeah.
might be some tweakers running out in the woods,
Yeah.
or whatever scared these campers, if they were just regular campers off,
Right.
it could still be around. And they ended up finding some 25, 26-inch footprints out there right behind the camp and stuff like that.
Maybe somebody left in a hurry. Yeah. It's heavy stuff. Like you don't know, right? Like you come across an abandoned camp. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I've heard of stories of people coming across, remains and other stuff. Like even one of the areas in like the so-called Bridgewater Triangle, even recently I heard there was, you know, somebody found human remains out there in like the Freetown State Forest, which is an area known for weird hauntings and other like creepy activity. And there's been satanic panic stuff out there and just a lot of crimes over the years. And like, people finding remains that just happened recently. I'm trying to think, there was another case too. I heard some bad stuff, but yeah, I mean, bad stuff happens to people out there in the woods. Like,
Bad stuff happens everywhere, though.
yeah, it's true. But like in the woods, it's something creepier about it. Cause like, and I should say like, the chances of something happening in the woods are usually a lot less than like your average city, right? Like you go to your
Right.
city, like, you there could be stuff going on, like certain crimes, whatever. But in the woods, it's just that the feeling of remoteness. I think people get like the helplessness feeling because like, oh, I'm 40 minutes from blacktop pavement, right? And I'm out here in the middle of some weird stalker. Everyone likes horror movies and everything, and that obviously puts an image in their mind. But I'm not trying to downplay any of the stuff we talked about. I'm just saying, like in my experience, most of the time I haven't had any issues, but every once in a while you'll get some weird stuff like that makes you like it reaffirms why you go out there prepared. Like I go out, I take my, I've obviously got not just a firearm, but like all my other equipment and like my Garmin GPS. I carry like a chest rig, and I've got all my stuff in there that I keep, and all the different tools and like little mini first aid kits and and other gear that you would need. Just because you never know. Like you're usually out in a place like that, you get an injury or something goes wrong, you're kind of on your own because the
R-
chances of getting first responders out there. If it took you an hour to drive in there, what do you think it's going to take the first responders to get out there?
Yeah,
Send an SOS out on your GPS. Like so. Definitely wilderness, is no joke, and you gotta, even just not even wilderness, like just a remote area that otherwise might not even be that remote, like, but like the Honey Island swamp is surrounded by human civilization on all sides, but you can be down a deep, dark road in the middle of nowhere and part of it's flooded. You are pretty far from help, even there, even though you can hear a highway roaring, a couple miles from you going over the bridge, or bridge going over the swamp. But like to get to that spot, you got to drive 30 minutes. Like
yeah, it's
you underestimate it, let alone somewhere in the middle of nowhere like Alaska, where it's like you break your leg and you're in that much more danger than you would be pretty much anywhere else. So, yeah.
that's one of the reasons. Like, I think everybody, if you're gonna do this stuff, well, number one, and actually, I'll come back to number one later. So number two first, take a first aid class. Learn how to properly do tourniquets, all that kind of stuff. Because that can
Not a
save your
yeah.
that can save your life any second. I know you guys had it. I don't know if you were with Eli during the ape canyon stuff going on, but I heard a story that one of you guys got cut up pretty bad and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I was not at the site. I was so because we had two groups. We had like an expedition of us at Ape Canyon, and it's only recommended like taking 4 to 6 people down to the actual cabin site. So I wasn't with the group that was there. I was with a bunch of other people up at base camp. My plan was because we were going to switch. They would come up, and then we'd go down to the cabin site, and we were hearing like, "Oh my God, there's something happened," and one of our guys had accidentally like got his hand cut and like artery and like started spewing blood, and he has some like law enforcement background, so he was able to like instruct everybody on how to get his tourniquet up, and then like he managed to hike back up and like kind of rappel with one hand up back in the out of the canyon. And as soon as we saw him, we gave him a bunch of electrolytes, and then we had search and rescue came up on e-bikes, and they were able to take him away and get him out of there. He was okay, but no one had to use the tourniquet. And I think the tourniquet actually broke, I want to say. So I don't know if it was just old or it was a cheap one. Like, don't cheap out on
Yeah,
tourniquets for sure, because like those are, you know, those can definitely make or break like an injury like that in a place like as remote as where we were, like down a canyon.
yeah.
It can be intense. So yeah, that's like a definitely a stark reminder. And just other times, like I've been really blessed, thank God, to not have anything like crazy injury wise happen. But even like just getting like an inconvenient cut or something out there in the woods, it can be that much worse than if you're just in your yard or whatever. Like, oh, I can rest it. Like, no, I still got to hike back 3 miles just to get to the car, and then I got to drive 2 hours out on the road. Like in area A, it's like, well, we got to take the boat ride out, like got to take the boat ride out. And then, you're just still 3, 4 hours from Anchorage, which is like the only real place that has a good hospital in the state or in that part of the state. So yeah, it's definitely no joke.
And that brings me back to number one. And a side question on this, man, is, well, number one, try to go out with at least 2, 3 other people other than yourself. But man, you got some cojones of steel, brother, for camping in the LBL by yourself. You could not catch me doing that.
I mean, so it's like, here's the thing. I don't recommend doing solo stuff. I generally prefer having other people with me, right? At least one other person, like strength in numbers, obviously. Even in Alaska, when I was there recently, I did some solo hiking, just kind of in some areas, and like your head is so much more on a swivel when you're alone, and you're a
Mhm.
lot more. I don't want to say nervous, but you're much more aware. You get this kind of false sense of security, I think, when you're with other people, because you're kind of like, we're hiking up the trail, and we're kind of shooting the shit, like having fun, and then something happens, and you're like, oh, okay. Whereas when you're alone, like your awareness is heightened. And yeah, I've tried to push the envelope and like, do some solo camping in some areas, Honey Island Swamp, going out investigating LBL kind of stuff. And it's just not as fun. I do enjoy it at times. I think it's a good challenge, but obviously you have to know there's a lot more risks involved. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Um, but it's just one of those things that obviously it can be fun. Like Les Stroud, Survivor Man, big inspiration of mine, and he obviously is a professional and he does what he does, but you know my generation kind of grew up on that stuff, so you can't really blame us for
Yeah.
try some of this sort of stuff. But
I don't blame you, man, but that area,
it's yeah, I know. There's been like even when I was in West Virginia recently and I was solo camping in this area and I had some like potential weird stuff happen. It was kind of funny. Um, well, not funny, but like it's funny what was going on outside the car without me even knowing. I was camped near this like dried up lake bed area, feeds into this other kind of man-made lake in central West Virginia in the middle of nowhere. In an area there's been a ton of activity and sightings in that area, and I heard these like vocals, these screams, just sounded like people going like, "Oh, oh." It was weird. I don't know what to make of it, but somebody recorded similar stuff to that a week or so before that. This will be featured in an eventual episode. I did film some stuff on this, but I heard some pretty good knocks that night too. I was out there alone, and then I do this overnight thermal surveillance thing where I take one of my AGM thermal cameras, and in this case, I had built this platform in the backside of my. I was telling you about this before the show, but I built this platform in the backside of my vehicle, my Rav4, so I can camp back in there. It just makes it easier. I don't have to set up a tent all the time and stuff like that. So I'm getting ready to sleep in there for the night. I listened for a while and I heard some knocks and stuff, and then I take this AGM thermal camera and I just place it like on a little tripod on top of the car and just let it run all night, pointed like towards this lake bed. Because my idea was, if there's anything crossing from one hill going to the water and then going to the other side or anywhere around there, you'd see it. And that night, I might have heard some possible knock stuff. I got some recorded. A lot of it could have just been branches and other critters moving around, but that one camera pointed across the on top of my car, got like 14 videos of black bears walking around. And I found so many tracks the next morning. I got some like ridiculous 3D scans of bear tracks out there, black bears, in that part of West Virginia. But and I'll pull one up here. Actually, you can see on the 3D scan, this is some black bear tracks that I found there.
oh,
Really cool
sick.
because you could see, it was like a hind and a front kind of right next to each other, which was really neat. So
That's
that's all on the 3D scanner. So yeah, that was cool. But like, it was, again, I'm just peacefully sleeping in my car, and there's like either the same bear or I think it was multiple bears because I could see on the camera like sizes were a little different on some of them, but there's just all this bear activity, and I'm just like peacefully sleeping in my car, have no idea what's going on out, right? So that's one of those things that obviously we're hoping to get some bipedal figure walk from one hill to the next, right? That would be the ultimate goal. But I've done that thermal surveillance trick quite a bit over the last couple of years, and I've only ever filmed one bear in British Columbia across a creek. You can barely see it, like the thermal signature, as it's kind of like going across this river on the other shore. I've gotten hummingbirds, I've gotten like other birds, small critters, deer, but this is like, I've only ever filmed one bear, and this one night I filmed 14 clips of bears. So, and then again, I was just peacefully sleeping in my car, no concern in the world. So there's that.
that's that in my experience, that tends to be when the most stuff happens, and I'm not even talking, the paranormal. Hey, like stuff like your bears, man.
Yeah,
Like
just general activity. Yeah.
when you're just chilling or sleeping or something like that. That's
Yep.
you're not hyper focused on everything. You're just when you just exist. Nature happens, man. Nature.
Good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah. That's why we run the audio. That's why I increasingly do the overnight thermal surveillance, because again, if I hadn't had that running, I probably would have had no idea there was I mean, I saw tons of bear tracks, but there were so many tracks from even before before the night. So like I wouldn't have been able to tell like if, it was some new stuff or not, unless I really looked. So yeah, it's the witching hour, right? That like midnight to 4 a.m. And that's when, I've recorded stuff, other, potentially weird stuff in West Virginia previously, even last April when I was out there. We were in the Monongahela National Forest and we did like a week out there, me and a bunch of buddies. And we had two locations, we heard some pretty good knocks on overnight recorders. And on both occasions, they happened like 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, like multiple knocks. And I got this weird scream actually recorded on my camera as I was setting up a tree stand. I was setting up a saddle climbing tree stand that you can just deploy anywhere, and just harness up and you kind of get up in the tree, and you can. My idea is I sit up there with a thermal kind of thing and just stay up in the tree for a few hours. So, we had done that, and as I was setting up, we got this weird, like, "Ah!" Like a dude screaming, and I'm like, "Who's like, there's nobody out here." We actually got locked behind a Forest Service gate while we were there. That's how, like, it was in April, and it was just kind of a weird thing. There was like a screaming, and then that night we had pretty good knocks, caught 3 separate occasions. Would sound like something in one area, and then in another area, and then almost like a tree kind of crash sort of sound. So I don't know. And then a separate location, like 3 days later, we got like this one really crisp, clear knock that was recorded, just like like a perfect one of the nights. No wind, nothing. So with all this stuff, I can't say 100% like this is legit. I didn't see it, but it is interesting. It makes you wonder, and a lot of it happens consistently at that like 3 to 4 hour mark for whatever reason.
Right.
Mm.
Well, that when we were talking pre-roll, and I was telling you that that tree came cracking down right next to our camp. That was at like 1 in the morning, and the night before, I didn't even tell you this. We heard this owl, and one of the guys that was with us, he can do the woo, woo, owl noise back.
Yep.
So he was communicating with this thing. Dude, they were going back and forth for like 10 minutes. We're all sitting back by the fire, and then all of a sudden it goes whoop, and then "Arr!" And we had the same thing happen in Tennessee that happened where we went this last time, and dude, it was like me, me and Brian, one of the guys that was there, were at the same time. Pardon my French, everybody was like, once again, that ain't no fucking owl. We're just like freaking out, like not like
Something
freaking
else
out.
voiced its opinion, huh?
Yeah, well, we were thinking, I, when I go out, it seems to be. I hear a lot of mimic noises. Like growing up in the Midwest, being outside a lot of hiking, fishing, all that kind of stuff. I'm not a hunter, but fishing, all that. I'm out in the woods a lot, so I've learned what a lot of animals sound like. I've seen every nature documentary out there, uh, stuff like that too. So these, owls sound just slightly different than normal owls, and then it's always followed by this "Arr!" right after.
Interesting. Yeah, I've heard stories like that. I haven't heard anything like that myself, but, sometimes you'll hear, like, like, one thing that gets me is the coyotes can do this really weird alpha coyotes can make this really blood-curdling weird sound, and usually it'll happen before other coyotes, like, you'll be able to tell because 'cause it'll be like this, like, totally crazy vocalization. You're like you get woken up by that in the middle of the night, you're like, "What the heck?" And then a bunch of other coyotes start chiming in, you're like, "Okay, it's the alpha coyotes, they spur 'em on." That's like I've heard that, but I've not heard the mimicking stuff. I've heard other, like, other weird vocals, like, again, those most recent ones in West Virginia literally just sounded like people screaming. And what this lady recorded very recently prior to that was like very similar. And that's been reported in that area. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to make of it. I can't say 100% what any of it is, but yeah, I mean, it's weird. When I was out in Washington too, we were at this kind of notable location, this lake that's famous for encounters, like a lot over the years. It's some of the craziest recordings I've ever heard that have been captured in that area. Like 30 minutes of this weird screaming, singing, vocalizing, like just you wouldn't believe it. And at that location, we had heard like this big tree crash. And then I think it was that night or maybe the night after that, we had recorded stuff again, like kind of like 3, 4 in the morning, like knock, kind of power knock sort of sounding stuff, weird sort of. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, but again, it's like that time period for whatever reason is trees decide to creak at that time. Like, I don't know, like the
It's so
explanation is right.
weird.
It's
Uh,
weird, yeah.
well, I want to go back to that alpha thing for a second. That coyote. And once we get done, with the recording and stuff like that, I'm gonna send you this audio we captured down where we were this past time, because maybe the beginning of what it is what you're talking about, because it sounded like a damn elk. It was like, "Uh," and then it just like went into coyotes yipping. But
Wow,
you know,
weird.
I put it in a program. I don't have one of them fancy noise programs, sound programs where you can rip the layers apart. So I did the best
Oh,
I
okay.
could
I mean,
with on.
I just use Audacity, which is free. Like, you
Yeah,
can
that's
do some noise removal stuff on there. I mean, I'm not a. There's like some people you can watch some tutorials. People can show you how to break it down. Um,
that's what I did to the most part to get
yeah.
it to where you can hear it clear, because there was some talking over it and stuff
Oh
like
yeah.
that. But I used to be in a studio, intern in a studio where I had that program right in front of
Oh yeah.
me.
Like,
So now it's
nothing
like,
will ever be the same. Yeah.
yeah, so like trying to do my best of it. But dude, I mean that audio is really freaking weird, man. I need to
It's
put more time into it. But
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with some of this audio, and like I'm not an audio expert by any means. I usually try to send my stuff to people that I trust, like Chris Spencer, the Olympic Project. He's a really good audio guy. There's a couple other people too that I'm like that I sent that particular like that stuff I got West Virginia recently. Like, what do you think of this? Like, do you think it's weird? Do you think it's just people screaming in the distance? Like, tell me what's going on. Audio is weird because it's one of those things like unless you see what made it, you're kind of left guessing. I mean, there are certain signs like again, you're getting weird like audio signatures at 3 a.m, sound like somebody wailing on a tree. I mean, we can make assumptions about what we think it is. Obviously, we don't know what it is, but you run it through some programs and you check like does it match up with other known species behavior? Like it's like you just try to find a way to I guess debunk it. Like I try to you try to debunk your own stuff. I guess is the way to put it. But yeah, audio is weird, and that's why I try to couple like the thermals overnight with audio. Because let's say like you do get some crazy audio, and then you like see something in the thermal. I mean, that'd be the ultimate scenario, right? That'd be the ultimate capture because you have two pieces of evidence out of the same event. You have audio and video, which would obviously be more ideal.
right,
Even though video now everyone's still going to say it's AI or it's fake or whatever, but
or you're
that's
gonna get
the
that.
day and age we're in.
Yeah, or you're gonna get that pretty, as I'm coming to realize, common phenomena when stuff, shit hits the fan and it's time, and like you're prepared, you got your camera, and then all of a sudden it just stops working. Like, oh, the batteries in your FLIR, they were just 100% charged. Now they're zapped down to nothing, or like 10% or something like that.
I've had that happen a little bit. It's weird. It's like you thought it was fully charged kind of thing, and sometimes even just like you think you're ready and then you're just not. Like a lot of times, some of the stuff like we had happen in Alaska, we'd be sitting around the fire at 3 a.m. Everyone's got a thermal, we've got a camera, we've got audio rolling. Stuff starts getting thrown, and you start hearing knocks. And you're kind of like at first you're like everyone's so shocked, and then it's like wait, we have all this equipment, start pointing it, and like then you only have the audio of it. It's like you get caught with your pants down kind of moment. That's sort of what it feels like. It's like this stuff happens when you least expect it. And this is something interesting too that I talked about with my friend today, my friend Jonathan Wilk, that I was filming some stuff with. He had that sighting in 1992 while a park ranger in Western Massachusetts in the mountains, seeing two of these things. And I was just kind of saying like, it's weird because you like I've interviewed so many people and so many witnesses, and like my top 10 list, right? People who've had encounters and stuff like that. I was trying to figure out what they all share in common, and almost all of them, they were not looking for Bigfoot. They were just doing other things. They were building a cabin. They were hiking a trail. They were on their property. They were clearing land in Alaska to build a cabin, and they started having stuff happen. Like they did not expect any of that. John was just picking up trash, doing his daily rounds, his nightly rounds. He did go to this site to pick the trash up this site, and he sees one of these things. Like it's super. It's just like it's hikers, fishermen, people just doing random stuff, and they're having these encounters.
Right.
At least for like the most part. I don't know what that is about it. Like if you're looking for these things, do they know? Are they aware? Are they like, there's all of a sudden 10 guys show up and they've all got these things, and they're like looking around like this, like, yeah, that seems a little suspicious, you know. Um,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. Like, because again, it's like, in my opinion, some of the best witnesses that I've talked to are just people that would never even were looking for Bigfoot. They were just like, yeah, I was out here and it crossed the road in front of me, or it did this, or it did that. Um,
Yeah.
it's weird.
Well, and that's kind of like my method of approach and stuff and going and stuff too is, and I think it's why, like, not saying I have it figured out by any means, because honestly, I think it's either God, just allowing me to see this kind of stuff and presenting it in front of me, because I believe that plays a big factor in this stuff,
Yeah.
but also like, or just crazy coincidence, but like when I go out, even though I'm going squatching or I'm going hunting for dogman or something like that, like I'm not doing anything different. The reality is it's me and my friends, we're going out camping in these
Glorified
areas.
camping, right?
Yeah, where this stuff like where we know encounters and stuff have happened in the
Yeah.
past and there's a history, but we're not out there doing calls, we're not out there tree knocking, none of that. We're just walking, and like if we go out at night, as much as I hate it, dude, we don't use lights. We
That's a good way to do it though. No lights or just red lights. Yeah.
Yeah, red lights, if anything. We do have our lights on us, because if it's time, if
Or
it's go time, you want that.
oh
But
yeah.
most of the time, it's just going out in the dark. I've been in the middle of a holler in the middle of nowhere, Appalachia, laying down on some moss, dude, just dark for hours.
I've
And guess
been there.
what? They guess what? The Sasquatch came in and stuff, caught him on thermal, all this kind of stuff. But what were we doing? We're just existing out there.
Right, yeah.
Like
Yeah, I mean, it's something to be said about that, like, you hear all these, like, a lot of and I think most encounters, if you look at, I think statistically, and, my buddy Scott over the Bigfoot Mapping Project, he could probably break this down more, but the amount of and just general, you hear how many, like, sightings of road crossings, right? People had something like, we were just at a road crossing location today where this couple saw one cross the road in the '80s. Just, like, went across the road, it was nothing spectacular about it, just across the road. And that's so common. That's so many of like the good class A settings of road crossings. That's like a big category. So what is it? What's the common denominator? You got a person in a rural place driving usually at night or in daytime when this kind of thing happens. That's like that's a factor. The other big thing is people just camping. I've read so many reports where it's like, we were just camping this location and I think something came in because it was curious. It was checking them out, but they were, but sometimes the weird stuff works too. I don't know. I mean, it's like a little bit of I guess it's a contradiction to what I was talking about. I mean, I just think some of the best sightings that I've personally heard and been told have been random people out snowmobiling and they ran into one.
right,
Again, I'll just listed off a whole bunch of them. Like they had a chance to observe something that either was accidental, like, or I don't know how, what circumstances led to the sighting happening. But then you do the weird stuff. Like we've done some weird stuff, like on a projector screen in the middle of Oregon playing Lego Star Wars. And then that night we hear like knocks and other vocalizations. And of course the audio recorder had died. Or like even when I was telling you this, I think before the show, when I was in Mammoth Cave, um, we were back in, this was last month in Mammoth Cave National Park, with a whole group of people, and the rest of the group broke off. It was me and two other guys, and we just decided to go like literally ape shit and take bats, and like we're bashing the side of this abandoned cabin and just going crazy. And as we're walking back, like we hear this one really good knock. It was interesting. I'm like, maybe something got annoyed, something. And then I've been other times out, like we were in Washington. In one of my videos, we um we decided to do like call blasting, right?
mhm,
And the guy did he did like camels and hyenas. It sounds straight demonic, like just hyenas and making noises on your car speaker and just blasting that. It's echoing through the mountains. So like the idea is with that, it's like if something's here and it's like, what the heck am I hearing? I got to go check it out.
right,
And we didn't hear anything that particular occasion, but my buddy Kirk and Nathaniel said they've played those very sounds and they like had one of the craziest nights they've ever had happen. Maybe they angered something, or I don't know, something comes in to check you out. But yeah, so for me, it's been mostly majority of the time it's been I have not been expecting it.
yeah,
We're out, like we're sitting around the fire in Alaska, and then like we hear knocks and rocks start getting thrown. That kind of stuff. And then the other times, a couple other times have been like some sort of provoked thing. And then most of the audio and stuff has been like 3, 4 in the morning where nobody's really even listening. You're just kind of, you're sleeping usually, and that's when you're getting stuff on. And that's again the whole point of like having overnight audio.
Right. Yeah, and like I'm not saying that, like you said, the stuff that you got a projector playing Lego Star Wars out, man. I'm not saying that stuff don't work at all because obviously it does, and I
But
think that's
no, sorry, go ahead.
no, but yeah, I mean, it's like I think that's one of the cool things, like Finding Bigfoot and stuff did. Like
Yeah.
I love the creativity, and they did have some stuff happen. I
They had some
was
fun ideas, yeah, like do a barbecue in the middle of the woods kinda stuff, like
or when they did the fireworks in Indiana,
right.
that was like,
Yeah.
dude, that was only a few minutes down the road from my house. I think
Oh, that's
like
cool.
I was trying to like I was watching the episode recently, and they were just talking about the place. I was like, I think that's a few minutes from my house. I better go
Try to
check
check
that
that
out.
out. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's the thing is, like, we just have we were like, "Hey, let's put up this projector and play Lego Star Wars," and, like, that somebody could randomly do that, like, you could have a group of people that just go on a camping trip and they decide, "Hey, we're gonna do this." Maybe that's, like, something novel to these things, they're interested, they're like, "Oh, we have nobody." Usually, they just come out here and cook meat and camp and, like, drink, and that's it. Maybe it's something interesting, like, they're hearing all these weird noises. It's like, curiosity. I think these things are probably curious. That's why a lot of these encounters have happened near campsites, a lot of times to unsuspecting people who
Right.
did not expect it. So that's kind of the idea, like let them come to you sort of thing. I think at certain times that might work. And other times, maybe try something weird and, very aggressive. And I don't realistically, none of us really know, right? Like we have
Right.
things we think have worked a certain amount of times. And we just kind of try it and see what works and what doesn't work. And yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a bit of a mixed bag.
It is, and one of the things I like to do, going back to Les Stroud, like dude, I grew up watching this stuff
Me
too,
too.
like big inspiration as well. I hope one day I get to meet him. But one thing that he always had was his guitar. He always brought a guitar with him.
Great point. Yeah.
So whenever I go out, I take my guitar, and that has drawn stuff into camp. You
Yeah.
know, I'll just sit there and play guitar, and it actually got to the point when we were in Tennessee that it got real dark out, and I went to grab my guitar, and we had 2 teams out going on different sides of the ridge. I stayed at base camp because, my whole plan was I'm gonna play guitar and draw him in. That the old timer on our team, he was like, "Riley, don't you dare touch that guitar again." And I'm like, "Why?" And then right behind us in the woods. And it was like, "That's why." He's like, "You've been playing all day. They've been hearing it all day. Now, if they're intrigued, they figure you're gonna keep on, hypothetically
Yeah.
speaking, like you said, we don't know. They're
Right.
gonna be expecting it. Let's just sit and listen, You can grab it, pick it up, because if they're watching us, they're gonna be excited, but put it down,
Yeah.
and
No,
let's
then
just
that's really
listen."
interesting because that's like a curiosity thing. You got to think about the acoustics. A lot of these places in the woods, you got like ridges and you do like like the whistles or anything you do, like it just sounds different and it creates maybe something's interested. And then that's not the first time I've heard that kind of stuff with music being played and that sort of stuff. And I don't know, I think there's something to it. If these things, I don't know what these things are, if they're something close to us, some sort of near human intelligence, obviously I think they would need to possess. They
Mhm.
probably are curious about what's going on. And I think that's why a lot of these encounters happen in the way they do, with people in camp and people doing stuff. And yeah, like you said, just kind of existing a lot of cases, not necessarily like going out and looking.
Right. Well, brother, we could sit here and we could
I'm
talk
sure we could.
for a lot longer, and I know we're gonna talk for a little bit after we get done recording this, but once I get back from this break, man, I'd love to have you back on again. We can talk some more. But before we rock and roll out here, tell everybody about yourself again, and maybe if you're allowed to, like maybe I know you said a few of them, but a couple projects coming up that you're excited about.
Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate you again having me on and everything. But yeah, if people want to find out any of I've talked a lot of different stories tonight, but a lot of my videos, again, look at Bigfoot Beyond the Trail and Small Town Monsters. You can look up Small Town Monsters. We're on a lot of different platforms, but if you check out my website, Petakov Media, Petakov media.com, that's got links to like all the different stuff, specifically some of my films. But we do a lot of other videos at Small Town Monsters and films. So I'm not saying don't check it out. There's like a ton, but if you want to hear specifically about like the Alaskan coastal Sasquatch or stuff I've talked about tonight, my website, I have a whole like link in the film and video section of all the different stuff. So check that out. Um, yeah, no, it's obviously, like I said, it's just been a lot of fun going on these adventures, and be happy to come back anytime. And yeah, as for like upcoming projects, bunch of Alaska stuff still coming. I have a Washington State, bunch of videos coming from that area as well. Really excited about that. I've got some of this West Virginia and Kentucky stuff I recently filmed. And then next year, just already starting to make plans in a lot of different places. So the journey will continue, but a lot of this will be covered in various videos and mostly beyond the trail type stuff. So definitely that's a good way to kind of find out what's going on. And I'm on social media and everything, so I try to post some of that stuff when I can. So check that out if you get a chance.
All right. I'll put all the links down below. I think this might be the first time I put the video specific links, because we talked about the Alaskan Ghost a lot. So I'll put the links to those
Yeah, sure.
all couple parts of those in there for everybody to check out, make it nice and easy. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe to Small Town Monsters, man. Like, I can't stress enough. They put out some great content, and if you like it, join their membership too. I mean, ads are there, but like, so don't do it just to get rid of the ads. Do it
Yeah,
to support them, because I mean, uh,
appreciate
I
that.
know they got some great stuff coming up. And
Yeah, we've also got, just a quick plug, we've got our Kickstarter. We do an annual Kickstarter every year that comes up in February. So stay tuned to social media. That's a way to like be part of the kind of be involved in the projects. Like you get your name in all the credits and all that sort of stuff, and it really helps like fund most of the projects that we're doing pretty much throughout the year, films and like the YouTube episodic stuff and pretty much everything. So yeah, multiple ways to support. Again, just check it out and share it, and just hopefully enjoy it. If you don't like it, you can tell me. If you do like it, you can tell me. I'm fine with whatever.
well, thank you again, man. This has been a blast. And everybody, thank you so much for this last year and a half of love and everything. I'm looking forward to coming back from this break and being back with y'all and having some great stuff for you. I hope you all understand the break, but that's just life sometimes. And here's the reality of it. I'm one of the youngest in the game right now. I got a lot of life to live. There's a lot more content coming, and you know how it is. But God bless you all. Happy holidays to all y'all, because I won't be here to tell y'all. And keep looking, put those puzzle pieces together. And I'll catch you all whenever the next time is. Bye.